Yes, good morning, students. So, in the last session, we talked about the functioning of the pituitary gland, all the hormones and their disorders. So, we have done with the thyroid, the parathyroid, and the pituitary gland, the three most crucial logics. And now we go into another crucial gland called as the thymus gland and the adrenal gland. Let's analyze these. To start with, we have the thymus gland. The thymus gland is situated on the ventral side of the heart and the aorta. आपके नोट्स में एक छोटा चेंज करना, इट्स गिवन बाय मिस्टेक डॉर्सल देयर, डॉर्सल कट करके मेक इट वेंट्रल साइड ऑफ द हार्ट एंड द aorta. So we have the heart in the chest. From the heart arises the aorta. वेंट्रल टू इट, उसके आगे होता है आपका thymus gland. So thymus is situated in front of the heart and the aorta. It is formed of lobules, and the thymus plays a major role in the development of the immune system. So what is the main function of thymus gland? It helps in development of your immunity. It is concerned with the immune system. Which gland is concerned with the immune system? The thymus gland. The defense mechanism is controlled by the thymus gland. It gives out a peptide hormone known as thymosin. Thymosin is a peptide. It's a protein made up of 20 types of amino acids. And this hormone called as thymosin, made by the thymus gland, plays an important role in the differentiation of T lymphocytes, which is called as cell mediated immunity. What is cell mediated immunity? सर, आपके WBC जो ब्लड में होते हैं, उसका एक इंपॉर्टेंट टाइप होता है कॉल्ड एज lymphocytes. So you have eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, monocytes, lymphocytes. करेंगे आप ये सर्कुलेशन में. These are all 5 types of WBCs. उसमें सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं lymphocytes. What will be lymphocytes doing? Lymphocytes दो टाइप के होते हैं, T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So there are T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, of which thymosin plays a major role in differentiation of T lymphocytes. T lymphocytes आपके बोन मैरो में बनते हैं, एंड बोन मैरो में जब ये टी लिम्फोसाइट्स बनते हैं, दे आर immature undifferentiated T lymphocytes. Undifferentiated immature T lymphocytes produced in bone marrow. They will go in the blood, and by blood go to your thymus gland. और thymus gland में the hormone called thymosin will cause differentiation of T lymphocytes. So undifferentiated T lymphocytes will become differentiated to become mature lymphocytes, namely T helper lymphocytes, T killer lymphocytes, T suppressor lymphocytes. तो ये mature lymphocyte है. So thymosin converts undifferentiated T lymphocytes into T helper, T killer, T suppressor. You will do this in immune system. T helper lymphocytes recognize foreign proteins as antigen. तो कोई भी बैक्टीरिया, वायरस, फंगस, ये माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म है, उसके सरफेस के प्रोटीन को एंटीजेन, इन अदर वर्ड्स फॉरेन, रिकॉग्नाइज करता है. दैट इज डन बाय टी lymphocytes. द टी killer lymphocytes attack the antigen. T killer lymphocytes जाके एंटीजन को अटैक करता है and tries to kill it. And T suppressor lymphocyte tries to reduce the number of T helper and T killer lymphocyte. It suppresses T killer and T helper. What will happen if there are too many T killer? बहुत ज्यादा T killer हो गया, it will destroy antigen of RBCs of bacterias, viruses, fungi, etc. बट अगर बहुत ज्यादा टी किलर हो गए हैं, द टी किलर में ऑल्सो अटैक एंटीजेन्स ऑन योर नॉर्मल सेल्स. नॉर्मल सेल्स पे भी एंटीजन को अटैक करेगा एंड दैट इफ यू रिमेंबर विल देन बिकम एन ऑटो इम्यून डिजीज. वो एक ऑटो इम्यून डिजीज हो जाएगी. For example, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Graves' disease, hyperthyroidism. Why? Because your own WBCs are attacking your own body cells. तो ये टी किलर कर सकता है. एंड अगर टी किलर का नंबर बहुत ज्यादा हो गया है, टी सप्रेसर विल सप्रेस द नंबर ऑफ टी किलर. तो ये ब्यूटीफुल फंक्शंस है, करेंगे आप लोग. टी हेल्पर लिम्फोसाइट्स recognize surface protein called antigen of a microorganism. So foreign protein called antigen is recognized by T helper lymphocyte. T killer lymphocyte will go and kill the microorganism, and T suppressor will reduce the number of T killer. So T killer का नंबर बहुत ज्यादा नहीं हो जाना चाहिए. It shouldn't start attacking normal body cells and start causing an autoimmune disease. All this undifferentiated T lymphocytes to become differentiated lymphocytes is called as cell mediated immunity. इसे cell mediated immunity कहते हैं. So which hormone is responsible for cell mediated immunity? Cell mediated immunity is initiated by thymosin. Thymosin helps in cell mediated immunity. It converts undifferentiated T lymphocytes into mature T helper, T killer, T suppressor lymphocytes. And thymus gland also produces thymosin, which acts on B lymphocytes. And B lymphocytes produce specific proteins called antibodies. तो सर ये रियल लॉजिक है. समझो ये है बैक्टीरिया, वायरस, और उसके ऊपर है सरफेस प्रोटीन कॉल्ड एज एंटीजन. A T helper lymphocyte will recognize the antigen, and that is a part of cell mediated immunity. And then T helper lymphocyte gives messages to B lymphocytes, and T helper lymphocyte give messages to B lymphocyte, and B lymphocyte starts producing proteins, and those proteins are called as antibodies. Antibodies are produced, and antibodies go and attack the antigen to form antigen antibody complex. And antigen antibody complexes are formed, and antibodies will try to attack the antigen. And antigen antibody complex hota hai, and once antigen antibody complex is formed, you will learn it later, another WBC called as neutrophil. Neutrophil and monocytes. Neutrophils and monocytes will come and attack the antigen antibody complex. Neutrophils and monocytes will come and attack the antigen antibody complex, and try to destroy it. So, who recognizes antigen? Antigen recognition is done by T helper lymphocyte. Who produces antibodies? Antibodies are produced by B lymphocytes. And antigen antibody complex बनता है. And who destroys antigen antibody complexes? Neutrophils and monocytes. So beautiful immunity we have, and this is done with the help of the great hormone called thymosin. So thymosin acts on B lymphocytes and helps in the formation of antibodies which attack antigen. This is called as humoral immunity. इसे HI humoral immunity कहते हैं. So thymosin acting on T lymphocytes to produce T helper, T killer, T suppressor lymphocytes is called as cell mediated immunity, and thymus gland producing thymosin and B lymphocytes give out antibodies. This is called as humoral immunity. So इसे humoral immunity कहते हैं. And cell mediated immunity, that is T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes forming antibodies, humoral immunity, are done with the hormone called as thymosin. So thymus is concerned with immunity. The thymus gland starts degenerating in elderly people, leads to decreased production of thymosin and a weakening of immune response. Elderly people, their immunity becomes less, and that is because the size of the thymus gland starts reducing at puberty itself. Puberty से ही thymus gland starts degenerating. The thymus starts degenerating at puberty itself, and in elderly people, the thymus has undergone complete degeneration. तो उनका T lymphocyte, T helper lymphocyte forming, recognizing antigen, cell mediated immunity, B lymphocyte shooting antibodies, that is humoral immunity, ये एकदम weak हो जाता है, and that is the reason a person will have weakened immunity in the elderly age. Elderly age में ये weak immunity हो जाती है. तो very important neat point of view, which gland is concerned with defense mechanism or immunity? Thymus gland. Which gland starts degenerating at puberty itself? Thymus gland. Which gland converts T lymphocytes into T helper, T suppressor, T killer lymphocyte, that is cell mediated immunity? Thymus gland. Which gland or hormone helps in stimulating B lymphocyte to shoot antibodies, that is humoral immunity? Thymus gland. What hormone is given by it? Thymosin. Thymosin is what kind of a hormone? It is the peptide hormone, and that is the beauty of your thymus gland. So I hope you all have understood thymus. Let's understand the adrenal gland. So thymus gland के साथ we have the adrenal glands which we talk about. The adrenal glands or suprarenal glands are located on the upper borders of the kidney, showing two distinct regions, an outer cortex and an inner medulla. The adrenal glands are vascularized glandular structures. The adrenal cortex consists of three distinct regions: the outer zona glomerulosa, the middle zona fasciculata, and the inner zona reticularis. तो ये है आपका किडनी, और किडनी के ऊपर होता है adrenal gland. Adrenal gland के दो parts होते हैं. One is the middle part. The middle part is called as the adrenal medulla, and outer to it is the adrenal cortex. And adrenal cortex is made up of three distinct layers. Three distinct layers. The outermost one is called as the zona glomerulosa. That is the outer layer, zona glomerulosa. The middle layer is called as the zona fasciculata. Zona fasciculata. And the innermost layer is called as the zona reticularis. Zona reticularis, of which the outermost layer, zona glomerulosa, gives out mineralocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids, that is, aldosterone is given. Aldosterone is given by outer zona glomerulosa. Zona glomerulosa, which is outside, gives out mineralocorticoids, that is aldosterone. The middle zona fasciculata gives out glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, in other words, cortisol. Glucocorticoids, in other words, cortisol. Cortisol. And the inner zona reticularis gives out androgen. जो inside zona reticularis है gives out androgen. So once again, what are the parts of the adrenal gland? Inside is the adrenal medulla, and then we have adrenal cortex. So this is your adrenal cortex, and cortex consists of outer zona glomerulosa. This is the zona glomerulosa, which gives out mineralocorticoid like aldosterone. Then we have fasciculata, zona fasciculata, which gives out glucocorticoids, that is cortisol, and inner zona reticularis, which gives out androgens, and then we have the entire logistics. The adrenal cortex secretes many hormones called as corticoids, which are steroids. So, अब तक हमने जितने भी हार्मोन किए, they were either amine or they were protein, peptides. Adrenal cortex hormones are steroids. They are not proteins, they are fat derivatives. They are cholesterol derivatives. Anything which is a fat or a cholesterol derivative is called as a steroid. So these are steroids which are fat or cholesterol derivatives. And there are three of them. Zona glomerulosa give out mineralocorticoid, zona fasciculata give out glucocorticoid, and zona reticularis give out androgen, of which zona glomerulosa, outermost one, giving mineralocorticoid, regulates the electrolyte, ionic, and water balance. What is controlling ionic and water balance called as? Arif sir has just taught you osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is done by mineralocorticoid. The main mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoid. It acts on the renal tubule and stimulates the reabsorption of sodium, water, and excretion of potassium and phosphate. Where does it act, if you remember? It acts on the distal convoluted tubule. डीसीटी पे एल्डोस्टेरोन एक्ट करता है and helps in the reabsorption of sodium and water and helps in the excretion of potassium and phosphates. So aldosterone सोडियम को रीअब्सॉर्ब करता है और पोटेशियम को यूरिन में एक्सक्रीट करता है. So sodium levels will become high and potassium level will become low. And this is important. Your body needs sodium for lots of functions, and excessive potassium is dangerous. So aldosterone will reabsorb sodium and give away potassium. And aldosterone helps in maintaining electrolyte balance, body fluid volume, osmotic pressure, and blood pressure. How blood pressure, sir? Sodium is a powerful osmolyte. सोडियम एक पावरफुल ऑस्मोलाइट है. आपके ब्लड में जितना सोडियम होगा, दैट मच मोर विल बी द वाटर एब्सॉर्ब. The more the amount of sodium, more the amount of water absorbed, and that much more will be your blood pressure. So your blood pressure will increase depending on the amount of sodium that is there inside you. So your sodium levels will decide how much is your blood pressure, and that will be decided by the amount of water absorbed. And that is done by aldosterone. Aldosterone will help in that process. And then we have androgenic steroids. Androgenic steroids are also given by adrenal cortex, which have a role in the growth of axial hair, pubic hair, and facial hair during puberty. So, androgenic steroids are given out by your zona reticularis, and they help in growth of facial hair in girls. Males में our facial hair is grown by testosterone, but in females facial hair is grown by androgens of the adrenal gland. उनमें टेस्टोस्टेरॉन तो होता ही नहीं है. तो androgens of the adrenal gland help in the growth of facial hair, mustache, and beard. And both in males and females, pubic hair and axial hair in the armpit called as axial hair, and hair around the penis region called as pubic hair are grown with the help of androgenic steroids. And sometimes it may happen in certain women. Particularly, you will find many women in Punjab, Haryana, hatte katte women hote hain. They have an over secretion of androgens. Over secretion of androgens, which is a condition called as adrenal virilism, also called as hirsutism. Adrenal virilism, also called as hirsutism, where they have excessive facial hair. तो कुछ ज्यादा ही मुस्टैच आ जाती है, कुछ ज्यादा ही फेशियल हेयर आ जाते हैं, and these women have overgrowth of facial hair, a condition called as adrenal virilism, also called as hirsutism, are the important features because of androgenic steroids. And then we have glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids given by the zona fasciculator. Glucocorticoids are involved in carbohydrate metabolism. वो carbohydrate metabolism में help करते हैं. The main glucocorticoid is cortisol. Cortisol is the main glucocorticoid and it stimulates gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, and proteolysis. ध्यान से gluconeogenesis is the conversion of non-carbohydrate substances into glucose. तो याद है thyroxine had converted fats into glucose. Cortisol will also do lipolysis, breaks down fats and converts fats into glucose. But cortisol not only breaks fats into glucose by lipolysis, it breaks proteins into glucose by proteolysis. तो प्रोटीन्स टूटने लगता है और प्रोटीन्स का ग्लूकोज बनाया जाता है. That is called as proteolysis. Proteolysis is done by cortisol. So cortisol helps in proteolysis. So converting of fats into glucose and conversion of proteins into glucose, collectively called as lipolysis and proteolysis, is collectively called as gluconeogenesis. That is collectively called gluconeogenesis. Cortisol inhibits cellular uptake and utilization of amino acid. तो आपके सेल्स में अमाइनो एसिड आते नहीं है एंड अमाइनो एसिड does not get converted into protein, rather amino acids are broken down into, if you remember, pyruvic acid, and pyruvic acid will enter the Krebs cycle and produce energy. तो सेल्स का अपटेक ऑफ अमाइनो एसिड ही नहीं होगा, which means protein synthesis कम हो जाएगा and all the amino acids become pyruvic acid, enter Krebs cycle and produce energy. तो cortisol कुछ भी करके कार्बोहाइड्रेट शुगर लेवल हाई रखता है. It will break down fats, lipolysis, converted into sugar. It will convert proteins into sugar. It will inhibit amino acid uptake and convert amino acid into the pyruvic acid, Krebs cycle, and sugar. तो कुछ भी करके cortisol will increase your blood sugar level. It will increase your blood sugar level. Hence, it is rightly called as a glucocorticoid. It's a glucocorticoid, maintains your glucose levels. Cortisol also plays an important role in your cardiovascular and kidney function. आपके हार्ट बीटिंग के लिए और आपके किडनीज के फंक्शनिंग के लिए यू रिक्वायर cortisol. And cortisol is involved in anti-inflammatory reactions and suppresses the immune system. So cortisol is anti-inflammatory. It reduces swelling. तो swellings reduce करता है, inflammation reduce करता है cortisol. And that is the reason people who are having, if you've heard of it, rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis of the knee, they are having swelling of the knee, उनको orthopedic doctors बोलते हैं, let us give them in their knee joint injection of steroid. Which steroid injection is given? Cortisol. Cortisol, which is a steroid. Cortisol, which is a steroid, is the steroid given because it has anti-inflammatory reaction and it will reduce the swelling in your knee joint. तो आपके knee joint का swelling reduce होता है. As a matter of fact, if you have a asthma. In asthma, there is an inflammation of your trachea and bronchi, and you may have bronchitis, and inflammation of the bronchi takes place, and that is inhibited by cortisol. How? If you've heard of it, you will advise people to take inhalers, and they will take inhaler, और inhaler का puff अंदर जाएगा during their bronchitis, during their asthma, and that inhaler has in it cortisol. Cortisol, which is called as dexamethasone. Dexamethasone, also having another one called prednisolone. So, dexamethasone or prednisolone, which are types of cortisol, ये उस inhaler में होता है, and it will reduce the swelling of bronchitis or asthma. So, anti-inflammatory, excellent. It is used for arthritis, bronchitis, asthma. Cortisol is a superb medicine, and it suppresses the immune system. तो ये भी एक बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट है, आपकी इम्यूनिटी कम करता है. It decreases your immunity. Sir, how is that good? Sir, समझो आपको एक कार्डियक ट्रांसप्लांट किया गया है. एक कार्डियक ट्रांसप्लांट किया गया है, तो सर, you are given somebody else's heart, and or a kidney transplant, which is much more common, you are given somebody else's kidney. Your own WBCs will recognize the donor kidney as antigen, foreign, and your WBCs will attack it by shooting out antibodies, and the kidney will get rejected. उसे graft rejection कहते हैं. So immediately after a kidney grafting is done, a kidney transplant is done, you will give the patient injections of cortisol. Cortisol suppresses the immune response, तो उस पर्सन की इम्यूनिटी को ही टेम्पररीली कम कर देता है. सो द किडनी इज नॉट रिकग्नाइज्ड एज फॉरेन एज एंटीजन, और उसके अगेंस्ट एंटीबॉडीज नहीं बनेंगे, and the kidney will get accepted. Beautiful function. And cortisol stimulates RBC production. So, sir, RBC production hota hai, and as a matter of fact, you may remember RBC production, also called as erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is done with the help of 4 hormone. एक अगर याद है, थायरोक्सिन will help in erythropoiesis. ये मैंने बताया था, याद है all of you all? Thyroxine helps in erythropoiesis. The hormone called erythropoietin. Erythropoietin produced by the kidney will help in erythropoiesis. अभी अभी हम लोग करेंगे. Erythropoietin will help in erythropoiesis. And then we have testosterone will help in erythropoiesis. Testosterone will help in erythropoiesis. ये नोट डाउन कर लेना, आपके एनसीईआरटी के स्टेटमेंट्स है ये. Note it down in your book. And the 4th hormone is cortisol. Cortisol will help in erythropoiesis. Cortisol will help in erythropoiesis. So, याद रखना, you have thyroxine, you have erythropoietin, thyroxine given by thyroid gland, erythropoietin given by your kidney, testosterone given by your testis, and cortisol given by your adrenal cortex. All of them help in the process of erythropoiesis. Beautiful. And then we have the adrenal medulla. ये है adrenal cortex और ये है adrenal medulla. The adrenal medulla secretes two hormones known as adrenaline or epinephrine and noradrenaline, also called norepinephrine. These are catecholamines. So we have adrenaline, which is called epinephrine, and noradrenaline, also called norepinephrine. तो दो हार्मोन हो गए, adrenaline or epinephrine, and noradrenaline or norepinephrine, which are catecholamines. What do you mean by catecholamines? So do we remember thyroxine was an amine, and amine was made up of only one amino acid, that is tyrosine. तो ये टायरोसिन का एक ही अमाइनो एसिड टायरोसिन था, that was called as an amine. And you have adrenaline and noradrenaline made up same. They are made up of tyrosine, but they have an NH2 group and amine group attached to the amino acid. And when an amine group gets attached to an amino acid, that is called as a catecholamine. So they are amines only with tyrosine, but they have NH2 group attached to the amino acid tyrosine, and such hormones are called as catecholamines. These hormones are rapidly secreted in stress conditions and are called as emergency hormones or hormones of fight, flight, or fright. Whenever a person is in a fright, डर गया है, or he's in a fight, or he's in a flight, भाग रहा है, तो ये सब स्ट्रेसफुल कंडीशन है. Person is psychologically frightened, or he's into a fight with someone, or he's running. Flight means the body is not at rest. These are all stressful conditions or emergency. तो उसमें इमरजेंसी हार्मोन सिक्रीट होगा. विच आर द इमरजेंसी हार्मोन्स? Adrenaline and noradrenaline are your emergency hormone or stress hormone or hormones of fight, flight, or fight. And what will these hormones do? They increase alertness. जब भी आप फाइट में हो या फ्लाइट में हो या फ्राइटेड हो, your alertness level will become high. Pupillary dilatation. आप भाग रहे हो, your pupils will dilate. आपको रास्ता क्लियरली दिखना चाहिए. डर जाते हो, आईज ओपन हो जाती है, pupils dilate हो जाते हैं. Pupillary dilatation. And your pupils will dilate, more light enters in. There is piloerection, hair erection. डर जाते हैं तो बाल खड़े हो जाते हैं, रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं. कहते हैं ना हम लोग हिंदी में, रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं. You get erection of hair, which is called piloerection, and you get sweating. तो भागते हुए पसीना आता है, स्ट्रेसफुल टेंशन आया, डर गए हो तो हाथों में पसीना आता है. All this increase alertness, pupillary dilatation, piloerection, sweating is all done by adrenaline and noradrenaline. And the hormones also increase heartbeat, strength of the heart contraction, rate of respiration. तो आपका भागते हुए हार्ट रेट बढ़ जाता है. Force of contraction of the beating of heart increases, blood pressure increases, rate of respiration increases. भागते हैं तो दिल की धड़कनें बढ़ती है, धक 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 धक. ब्लड प्रेशर बढ़ता है, ब्रीदिंग फास्ट होता है. दिस इज ऑल डन बाय एड्रेनलिन एंड नॉरएड्रेनालिन. एंड अगर आप इतना भाग रहे हो, you need a lot of energy. So adrenaline and noradrenaline increase blood glucose level so that sugar is available to all the cells and they will help in the breakdown of glycogen, lipids, and proteins. So, glycogen, lipids, and proteins are all broken down with the help of uh, adrenaline and noradrenaline. तो सर याद ये रखना है, both adrenaline and cortisol can break sugar to release energy and stress. Stress में adrenaline and cortisol both break sugar and releases energy in stressful condition. By the way, lipids and proteins get converted into glucose by adrenaline. So adrenaline converts proteins, that is proteolysis, and lipids, that is lipolysis, into sugar, and that sugar will undergo Krebs cycle, etc., to produce ATP. So, what is that process again called? Proteolysis, lipolysis into sugar. If you remember, that is again called gluconeogenesis. तो बहुत सारे हॉर्मोन्स ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस करते हैं. Thyroxine converts fats into glucose. That is lipolysis. That is gluconeogenesis. Cortisol converts fats and the proteins into sugar. That is called gluconeogenesis. Adrenaline to converts everything into sugar. Glycogen, protein, fats, वो तो stress hormone है. Sugar level चाहिए ही चाहिए, Krebs cycle होना चाहिए, ATP चाहिए, तो कुछ भी करके sugar level बढ़ाना है. So adrenaline converts everything into sugar. That is gluconeogenesis. As a matter of fact, glucagon जो हम लोग बहुत जल्दी करेंगे also helps in the generation of glucose. So you have thyroxine, cortisol, adrenaline, and glucagon, all four helping in gluconeogenesis. ये भी आपके एनसीईआरटी में दिया है, इसे लिख के याद रख लेना. So, good. So then we have hyposecretion of corticosteroids causes Addison's disease. ये हमने किया था पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड में. And hypersecretion of corticoids causes Cushing's disease. ये भी किया था हमने पिट्यूटरी में. And Addison disease के अंदर the person will have generalized weakness, weight loss, low body temperature, a feeble heart rate, low blood pressure, acidosis, excessive loss of sodium and chloride in the urine. ये पॉइंट एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं. आपके ब्लड आइडोस एसीटीएच कम है और रादर एसीटीएच कम हो सकता है तभी, या इवन अगर एल्डोस्टेरॉन कम है, एल्डोस्टेरॉन कम है तो रीएब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ सोडियम will not take place. So reabsorption of sodium will not take place. So there is excessive loss of sodium and chloride in the urine. And आपके ब्लड में सोडियम कम हो जाएगा. सोडियम भी रिमेंबर इज अ पावरफुल ऑस्मोलाइट. इट सक्स इन वाटर. तो सोडियम कम हो जाएगा तो osmolarity of the blood will become less and the blood pressure will decrease. So low blood pressure, loss of sodium in the urine, and this will be along with weakness of the body, weight loss, low body temperature, feeble heart rate, low blood pressure, acidosis, impaired kidney function, and kidney failure. And that is a disease called as Addison's disease. Hypersecretion of corticoids leads to Cushing's disease. Here the symptoms are alkalosis. If you remember, acidic pH, acidosis is in Addison's, and alkaline pH will be in Cushing's disease. So Cushing disease में alkalosis होता है, enhancement of more electrolyte in the extracellular fluid. Too much aldosterone means excessive sodium reabsorb होगा, and all that sodium will get accumulated in your body lymph. तो lymph के अंदर बहुत ज्यादा सोडियम आ जाएगा. and there will be polydipsia, increase in thirst, and increased blood pressure. Too much sodium, the osmolarity of blood will become more, and blood pressure will increase, and muscle paralysis, etc., may take place. So, these are classical hyposecretion called as Addison's disease and hypersecretion called as Cushing's disease. Chalo. So we have understood everything about your adrenal gland.